Good evening. We're going to call this meeting to order. This is the recessed session of the Nags Head Board of Commissioners, and today is Wednesday, November the 16th. Our first item is the adoption of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Further discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. I will point out that we are missing Commissioner Wayne Gray and Mayor Pro Tem Wayne Gray and Commissioner Renee Cahoon. I think Renee is under the weather with an infection, I believe. This is the time of the evening that we offer for audience response. If there are any members of the public that would care to come and bring up issues with the board, this is the time to do it. If you'll come up and give your name and address, we'll recognize you and come on up. Sir?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, residents of the town. Nags Head, I'm John Ratzenberger, 119 Sea-Watch Court. November is Lung Cancer Awareness Month. Lung cancer is the #1 cancer killer in the U.S., regardless of gender and ethnicity, accounting for about 28% of all cancer deaths. Lung cancer kills more than breast, prostate, colon, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and melanoma combined. Lung cancer kills almost twice as many women as breast cancer and almost 3 times as many men as prostate cancer. While breast, colon, prostate cancer have reliable early detection tests, lung cancer does not. Only 16% of lung cancer diagnosis happens in the early and most curable stage of the disease. Most people start right at stage 4, the worst. The 5-year survival rate for breast cancer is 89%, for colon and rectal 64%, for prostate 99%. The 5-year survival rate for lung cancer is under 15%. About 65% of new cancer diagnoses are among people who've never smoked or are former smokers. Less than 4% of federal dollars spent on cancer research is spent on lung cancer research. It's time to care. There are many information resources on the network. My wife and I recommend Longevity at longevity.org as a good starting point. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And that's longevity.org. Is that information? Thank you. Is there anybody else that would care to speak to the board this evening? Seeing none, we're going to call our audience response to a close. It's a pleasure to welcome Paula Hodges this evening. She has our audit with, Paula's with Martin Starnes and Associates, and they've been doing our audit for a number of years, I believe. Yeah. And she's going to give us a presentation. We had an audit workshop earlier this afternoon, which was very informative, and we appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful to be back at the town of Nags Head again to do your audit presentation. And it's been a wonderful year for the town. I was here in June to do my interim procedures, and at the same time you had your 150th anniversary celebration going on. I got to visit Jeanette's Pier, and beach nourishment was actually taking place right there at the pier, and what an amazing process. I had never seen anything quite like it. The beach is beautiful, so you've definitely had a big year. I'll take just a minute of your time to share with you the financial results of the 2011 audit. Next slide, please. Just a minute. Our audit opinion, which is what we're engaged to do, is offer an opinion on whether the financial statements are materially correct. And that opinion was unqualified. And what that means is that it was a clean opinion, a good opinion. When we went through the course of our audit, we evaluate the internal controls, and we had no internal control findings for this year as a result of evaluating the town systems. Our audit process went very well. We had cooperative staff. I want to take just a minute to thank everybody at the town, and especially the members of the finance department, for their assistance during the audit process, because it takes a lot of work to get ready for us to come in and look through all of the town's financial activity for the year, and we come on site 2 times during the year, and so we really appreciate everyone's assistance. Your financial statements, which some of you have before you, they look like this. They are drafted by the town's finance officer, Kim Kinney, and I want to take just a minute to publicly commend her for the excellent job that she does with financial reporting for the town. The town's financial statements, they were submitted to the Local Government Commission, which is a third party to the audit contract, and they review the financial statements, and they make any comments or suggestions for improvement. And this year, the town's financial statements, they were submitted, and the Local Government Commission had no comments or suggestions for improvement. So I just want to take a minute to recognize Kim for that, Kim Kinney. Next slide, please. The rest of the information is your information. It's all found within your financial statements. It is as of June 30 of 2011, which is a day in your entire year. And at that time, on June 30, this was your financial results. As you can see, this is a picture of the revenues and expenditures as they compare to the previous year. Your fund balance, which is an important part of your financial statements, you can find it on page 17, Exhibit 3. It has changed this year. We're under a new reporting standard, and that standard has reclassified the way fund balance is reported in your financial statements. Now you have 5 classifications. It begins with non-spendable, which is items that is not in cash form. That's prepaid, assets, and inventories. It's items that you can't spend. The next classification is restricted, and what that means is there's external restrictions such as laws or grantors that's placing restrictions on that fund balance. Next you have committed fund balance, and that's internal constraints. And those constraints are placed on fund balance by the board, and they do not expire at year end. They continue to exist, and they require board action to undo. Next you have assigned fund balance, which is also constraints placed on fund balance by the board, but it's a lower level than committed because those assigned amounts, they expire at year end, and they don't always require board action to undo. In fact, the board can designate someone to assign fund balance. And then everything that's left over is unassigned fund balance. This year, total fund balance increased by $407,000, and that is good because originally in your original budget or your final budget, you expected to use fund balance, and you didn't have to do that. However, it is important to realize that at the same time, while you added to fund balance, that this is as of June 30, 2010, and it doesn't take into consideration that you hadn't expended everything that you planned to expend within your final budget. So at this time, you added $407,000 to fund balance. You also had about $441,000 of amounts that you anticipated or already had open purchase orders for, that the timing just didn't happen that they got spent by June 30, but you spent them probably sometime later in July or in the subsequent year. So the fund balance position for the general fund, as a measure of general fund's health, you always take your available fund balance and you compare it to your expenditures and get a percentage. When you're trying to determine what your available fund balance is, you take the total fund balance less any non-spendable amounts, which those are amounts that are not in cash form, and then the state by law restricts you from considering things that they don't consider available resources in fund balance. And what that is primarily your accounts receivable or any of those open purchase orders at year end that are encumbered, that was encumbered in the previous budget, but that carried forward into the next year. And so we call that stabilization for state statute, and that's restricted by state law. And so once you subtract that out of your total fund balance, you get your available fund balance. Now it's important to realize that you could have an instance where your fund balance increases during the year, but your available fund balance decreases from what it was in the previous year. And that's the situation that you had this year. And there's not really a direct correlation between those two amounts because, for example, if your expenditures increase, then your fund balance, everything else stays the same, then your fund balance percentage is going to decrease. Even though fund balance stayed the same, your expenditures increased. And also, the components of the calculation for the stabilization by state statute are going to vary. Your accounts receivable amounts at year end are going to vary. So that's not directly tied to whether or not you add to total fund balance. And we talked before that available fund balance as a percent of expenditures or transfers to other funds is the percentage that we use to evaluate the health of the general fund. The Local Government Commission, they recommend that units have at least 8% of this fund balance percentage, and what that equals is 1 month of expenditures in reserves. And as you can see, the town has 71.8% this year. And so that's a healthy fund balance. The next series of slides just shows your revenue positions for this current year and the previous 2 years. I won't read those to you, but we can go through those and you can take a look, and they're included in your package, and you could view those at your own discretion. We have other taxes and license, intergovernmental revenues, and we have the same series of slides for the general government expenses or expenditures, public safety, environmental protection, and public works. And then finally, debt service. I have the same information for the town's enterprise funds, but before we move on to the enterprise funds, I want to point out to you your Beach Nourishment Fund on page 17 of your financial statements. When we were talking before about the amount that state law does not allow us to consider in available fund balance, the amount that we call stabilization by state statute. That calculation is made up primarily of your receivables and encumbered amounts. And if you take a look at your Beach Nourishment Fund, you see that it's $41 million, so it's a large number. And I just wanted to point out to you that the reason for that is because of the timing of the project. The Beach Nourishment Fund is a multi-year project, and it's adopted a project ordinance. And at June 30, 2011, you were early in this project, so all of the monies had not been received and all of the monies had not been expended. So it causes that number to look a little bit unusual. And I wanted to point it out to you and make it clear to you that the monies expended as part of the Beach Nourishment Fund were certainly within the budget and the project ordinance at all times. And if you look, the total fund balance, you have $28 million as of June 30 in total fund balance. So our new reporting standard just makes this fund look a bit unusual on the balance sheet. But in fact, you still have that $28 million of total fund balance, and all of the funds expenditures were expended within the project ordinance and the budget. Now we can go on and move on to the enterprise funds. When you're looking at the health of an enterprise fund, you don't necessarily look at fund balance as a percentage of operating expenditures. You really want to take a look at operating income and loss. And as you can see, we have that reflected here for your water and stormwater fund. Go ahead. And you want to look at your cash flow from operations. And what your cash flow from operations is everything that is left over from operations that's there for you to spend on capital or required debt service. And I think that you can see that your cash flow from operations here for 2010 and for 2011 in your water and stormwater fund. The next few slides I have in your package is the water fund quick ratio and the stormwater fund quick ratio, and all that tells us is the amount of current assets that you have on hand to fund your current liabilities. And now we have current and state local conditions, just to let you know sort of what's out there. Go ahead. What does our state legislator face? We have state tax revenues that are not enough to fully replace the federal stimulus funds that expire in June. Federal health care reform will make it harder for states to control cost. And federal spending cuts will affect state and local governments to various degrees. Okay. And then from Moody's Investor Services, we have some information on how local governments fared in the fiscal year 2011. Property tax revenue fell in the first quarter of 2011. They are estimating this will continue on into 2012. However, sales tax revenue grew by 4% in the first quarter of 2011, which was the fourth consecutive quarter with growth. So that's positive. And general fund balances as a percentage of revenues fell on average of 2.1%. And now if we have any discussions or questions, you want to talk about any kind of your fund balance percentage as any projections for next year, anything like that.
Said that they would significantly drop. Tim mentioned that today. Does she want to comment on that?
You want to just make a comment on how a change in the budget can change that percentage?
I just wanted to point out to the board and the public that based on the way that the percentage is calculated, if fund balance stays exactly the same at June 30, 12 as it is at June 30, 11, our percentage will go down because our expenditure budget for this year has been increased by about $4 million for debt repayment on beach nourishment. So if we could keep fund balance the exact same number that it currently is, and the percentage will still go down based just on the calculation as the percentage of expenditures.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for me?
Questions from the board? Any questions from the audience? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Let's see. I did want to point out that the audit is available. It's part of our agenda package for this meeting. So it is online on the town website. Everybody has a great chance to go look at it. I think it's 92, 93 pages or so of numbers, but a great management discussion as well. Our next item is a presentation by Aaron McCall on controlled burns.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and Town Nags Head. I appreciate you letting me speak this evening. I also have with me Rob Shackelford from North Carolina State Forest to speak as well and answer some questions. I'm going to be presenting today on looking at the feasibility of prescribed burning in Nags Head Woods Preserve. Just some of the things I'm going to go over in some of the slides is data on fires in Dare County. What is a prescribed fire? Why, where, how, when, and education awareness on this topic. On this slide just has a couple of different representatives of fires that have been recorded from 2001 to 2010. It's just over 200. As you can see, there's anywhere from lightning strikes to camping fires, mechanical use to smoking. So there's a wide varieties of how fires get started throughout here. Although in the past decade or so, we've only had a handful of fires that have started in Nags Head Woods. It's something for us to be considered. I know this has been a topic that has come up in multiple meetings, so this is one of the reasons why I'm bringing this up today. So what is a prescribed fire? It is a controlled application of fire to the land used to accomplish a specific conservation or land management goal. So this comes underneath. So why do we want to burn? Well, some of our management goals or what we're trying to do is to reduce the fuel load. As many of you are aware from the past hurricane, there's a lot of marsh grass that washed up throughout the town, as well as in Nags Head Woods. Most people called the rack line. We've got quite a few rack lines back there over years, so that's the fuel that we're looking at. We're talking about the marsh areas. One of the reasons to do a prescribed burn is to have a fire under a controlled set of conditions, where you've got weather that's a little bit more predictable, using certain types of wind. It's under a prescription, things like this. And by putting a fire in certain areas, we hope to reduce the chance of having a wildfire and having something that gets out, where we don't have people on the ground. Or, for example, we've got a fire somewhere else, and we tend to have maybe fires in other places, and there's not going to have the staff or the availability to get over in these areas. So, to put these types of prescribed burn underneath these conditions, hopefully will reduce those types of chances as well. And it also does improve biodiversity. There's some places where you'll see improved habitat, either for ground nesting birds or for food sources, things like that. But it does have some of the benefits to nature as well. Next slide. So where do we plan to burn? Right now we're looking at the brackish marsh community. And we're talking about the land that's in conservation, the land that's considered to be the marsh areas of Nags Head Woods Preserve. But there is also 21 private parcels within this area. There's 21 structures. Not all of these structures are necessarily adjacent or have a part in the marshlands, but there is these things, and these are all things that we need to be considered and thinking about when we're talking about this type of project. And the private parcels owners that do have the land, that do have marsh, they do have the availability, if they so desire, to reduce that fuel load and have the fire, they can be a part of this project. It doesn't cut them out. At this point, we're just talking about the lands in conservation. But if landowners see the desire and want to be a part of this, they can also be a part of this. And of no cost to them as well. This is a fully funded from America Recovery and Reinvestment Act, the ARA. And that's something that Rob found, and that's something Rob was able to go out there and find the money for this. And the North Carolina State Forestry will be performing the burn. So they will be the ones in control. They will be the ones that will be out there. The contract will be with them. And they will be the ones that will be writing the prescription. And the prescription is a legal binding agreement. It has the weather conditions. It talks about how many people you need to have out there. It talks about the units that you'll be burning. All of that stuff goes into the prescription. So this is not just something where it's, hey, we got a good day and it's sunny, let's go put fire on the ground. All these things have to be written in the prescription. It has to be signed off on and everything prior to any of this occurring. And there's also other rules out there that are legal and have to be followed. There's a smoke management guideline that must be followed as well. So if there's certain types of condition out there that would hold smoke down, they can't burn as well, even if they have other conditions that are there or they have the staff. But if the smoke is going to be held underneath, then those are things they have to follow by as well. So how do we plan to burn? We definitely are going to be informing the public, dare communication, and notifying them before the burn occurs. Like I said, these will have burn units. So it's not just because there's 250 acres that we're looking at lighting all 250 acres off at one time. So it could be 10-acre parcels. It could be 20-acre parcels. Those will be decided in the prescription. Fire breaks will be put in place before. I don't know if you can see that picture, but the next couple of pictures in there, those are an example of a fire break. Where they use the marsh masher, they lay down that vegetation, they help to bring the moisture up in the marsh and things like that. And then they may also apply some fire to black line it, a particular area, so that you don't have a fire coming in those areas. But those are things that would be done ahead of time before the actual fire is put on the ground. Sorry, can you go back one slide? Make sure we have the appropriate staff and equipment on site, just like I said in the prescription. If Rob says he needs 10 people there and he only can get 9 that day, there's a no-go. If he needs 2 pieces of equipment, whatever that prescription has in it, all those people have to be available. And like I said, we're talking about burning standing and down marsh vegetation in the area. All right? So we're looking at the marshes. We're not talking about the forest. There is a moisture level in these areas. So these are the grass areas. They are quick igniting. They can be hot at times, but they also can burn off quickly. And I know there's also talk because of the last fire that they had in Paynes Bay and the type of soils that were over there and the peat ignitions and things like that. Well, there is some peat soils in our marshes, but our systems are quite a bit different than those Pocosin systems, where they have peat soils all the way up into their forest. As you all know, Nags Head Woods is on sand. So there's sand deposit in places like that. So we're talking about having the fire in these vegetation type areas, trying to get this fire done at a quick time intervals, and hopefully see very little, soil ignitions. Excellent. So when can this burn take place? Well, in order to burn these types of marshes, you have to have a frost to occur in these areas. So the frost could be next month, a week, might not be till January. And then we have a window of March 15th, which is when typically wildfire season occurs. So generally at that point, the state and everyone is ready for wildfire season, so we don't have prescribed burns in that time frame. There's a possibility of having that based on other conditions, but at this point, those are the two parameters that we're looking at. Like I said, we do have the funding available, but it is only for this coming up fiscal year. So I know that this time seems to be quite quickly coming upon us, and that's one of the reasons why we're here to discuss this with you, and also to start talking about with the people of the town and the people that live amongst the area. Next slide, people. So that's where the education awareness comes in. We had a meeting with Kill Devil Hills on Monday night. And we're having this meeting tonight, and we want to meet with the landowners that live back there. I've already talked to Sam Walker with Outer Banks Voice. He's going to start putting some stuff out. We want to, to make sure that we're thinking about everything that we need to be thinking about. And so to get education, to make sure that everyone has buy-in on this type of thing, and that we're doing the right thing, not only for Nags Head Woods, but for everyone around the area. Be happy to take any questions, and Rob, be happy to take any questions as well at this point.
Questions from the board? I'm going to defer to the guy on the end there.
No, I'm totally in support of what they're planning on doing. They have a set of parameters that they've got to go by that are pretty stringent. Everybody that's involved or that's going to be involved is familiar with the area and our shortcomings. Kevin's on board with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, as far as the board goes, I mean, as far as it's going to have my blessing.
Sure.
If I could, and thank you for that, Aaron, great job, and Rob, thanks for being here. The town resources are ready and prepared to, help serve and partner with these two wonderful organizations to get this done, and I think that the benefits certainly outweigh the risks. But during your consideration, you do need to know that there are some risks with this. Aaron has pointed out that there will be a significant community outreach, articles in the paper, internet, narratives and things of this nature, emails through our own PIO who will help us out, get the message out when this is going to happen. And it's likely to happen in a very expeditious manner. The conditions are right. We'll deploy the resources, rally everybody together, and get going. But you do need to know that there's the possibility of some short-term community health issues due to the smoke. And I think that's probably more likely due to our recent sensitivity to the Paynes Bay fire, the Dismal Swamp fires that we've had, and people, of course, had to put up with that for a long time. But this is going to be a much shorter duration burn, probably between 2 and 8 hours in a day. There'll be no nighttime burning, and we'll get that done in sections rather than doing the whole thing at one time, but it'll be in a very controlled manner. Aaron mentioned that there was a significant debris line in the swamp in the western portion of the sound there, or eastern portion on the bank, and that I'm concerned because that has a potential to hide some LP gas tanks. But in order for this burn to happen, what we'll do is we'll walk that line and we'll do a flyover just to determine if there's any hazardous materials in the area, so that can be removed. But that's something in the back of my mind. Certainly the event will require some dedicated structural fire suppression people from the town. So we'll have to likely have some other crews come in and stand by in case there's any fire suppression that's necessary for houses or evacuations or any of the above. But I don't anticipate any of that being necessary with the safety precautions and incident command system that I know Rob's organization will employ during that time. And I think, too, maybe something that we need to do a little bit more distribution on and maybe a little bit more education, public education with is the use of fire and the value of fire in order to reduce fuels. And we have this image of Smokey the Bear and stop forest fires and prevent fires, but it's a natural portion of our environment, and so this is something that can really benefit us. And as Aaron mentioned, stop an unplanned fire from becoming too severe. If we reduce the fuels, this is a good thing for us. I'm not going to attempt to talk about the biological diversity issues. I think Aaron covered that really well, and that is a benefit to the woods. But the fact that this doesn't cost us anything, with the exception of some staff hours and some resources, perhaps a little bit of water, I doubt that even. But it's a very effective, and it's the least expensive fuel reduction method that we know of. Back in 2003, we went through a process of a mechanical fuel reduction program at Nags Head Woods, and we had crews go out, cut trees, pick up limbs, remove all that. We have the benefit and opportunity here of having a very quick and easy method of reducing those fuels, as opposed to that long process. And again, it's very effective. I think it also serves as a stepping off point for public education for fire-wise programming in our community, and how to be more safe for those homes located in the wildland-urban interface. So it's a good opportunity for the town, and I recommend we move forward.
Thank you, sir.
I want to know where Shaq found the money.
Actually, when we did the community wildfire protection plans, we designated several areas across the county as an area of concern, and Nags Head Woods was one of them. And by doing that, it opened the money out of that ARA program for that, because we already designated to it. All I had to do was make a few changes in the CWPP database and submit a map and send it up to Raleigh for approval, and everything's been good so far on it.
The only thing I think of, Shaq, is the district involved? I mean,
Yeah, I'm gonna have
how
district.
much help are you gonna have?
Well, me and my district ranger are gonna have to go out there and visit the site and get both our heads together to determine how much, equipment we're going to need out there on the ground, so that way we get it right the first time.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Aaron, can you tell me when the last time a burn was actually happened there? If there's ever been something on this magnitude before?
As far as a prescribed burn, I'm not aware of any prescribed burns in this area.
Yeah.
I'm aware of there was a fire that was caused by fireworks back in 2001, 2002 that burned 20-some, maybe more acres. There was a couple lightning strikes that occurred during some storm events, but they all went out naturally. And that's all that I'm really aware of in that area. But no prescribed burn has occurred in Nags Head Woods. This is a common tool that they use in Pea Island. They use in Alligator River Refuge and different places like that, and some of these other refuge areas. Currituck, they use these things as well in the marshes.
You say that you're meeting with the landowners. Are they the 21 parcels that are?
My intent is, after these meetings, is to get a letter to all the parcels that are tied in with those things, so that they have the ability. I would like to have something set up after Thanksgiving holidays. There's some landowners that are directly on the live in the woods. Some that just they don't have structures, but they are around the area. Right. So I'd like to set up some availability for them to come over and speak, or at least have a time to talk. So my intent is to get a letter out to them after these meetings next week, and to try to get some input from them as well.
The only communication I've had with anyone other than the meeting tonight is I have had a couple of emails. The concerns that they voiced were, number one, that the public be aware of it way ahead of time. And I know you're saying from the first frost to middle of March, that gives you, 3 months. How do you plan on going about picking the perfect time? And then I see you're going through Dare County and our media, et cetera, to alert the public. But you can't just come up and say, you can't come up and say, well, 7 days from now is the perfect day, we're going to do it, because you don't know what's going to happen. So how are you going to handle the public's knowledge that this is going to occur and when it's going to occur?
Well, there's a couple different ways that you can do is to get a radio announcement on that day. There's also in the past where the Nature Conservancy burns in areas like this where we own property in other parts of North Carolina, we actually put door knocker things on. to allow them to know that the week's coming up, that we are doing this and who's to contact and things like that. So those are a couple of other ways of doing it. Rob, he's talking.
They also, just to jump in here, and Rob, they also have a weather service. They use the weather service. The forestry service has a weather section, or deals with a weather section that can basically say, yeah, that during the week, this week, the weather should be. We can't guarantee it, but it should be.
And then that's when the
how
public.
it goes. But Shaq can tell you about the weather.
What kind of happens at the local level when we're doing this planning is Aaron has got a copy of a burn plan. I don't know if he's let y'all see the parameters that go into it, but you look at things like the relative humidity, the temperature for, that you want to perform the burn under, the wind speed, maybe around 10 miles an hour. You definitely don't want to go over 15 miles an hour. So you set all this stuff up, and I'm kind of on a daily basis at the office looking at our fire weather forecast and looking to see when I've got that right wind and it looks like it's going to be right, and say, I know it's going to be in the next 3 days. Well, it may be one of these last minute things where you do a spot weather forecast for the area to make sure your weather is going to hit just like you want it to and stay just like you want it to, and you try to hope that it stays that way and get the word out to everybody as quick as possible. And I mean, it's kind of short notice when the burn actually happens, but that's why we're trying to do all this awareness ahead of time so people know it's going to come.
And I think that's the important thing, is to let people know now that this will be going on. We're not quite sure when, but be aware that we will be letting you know, because I don't think you can give the public too much information on this since the Paynes Bay fire.
Just to recap, the area that you're talking about burning is the Conservancy property, correct? What's all the...
Well, yeah, that too, but if we can get all 21 of those parcel owners to sign off on it, we want to do that too. And it'll be at no cost to them. All they have to do is sign a contract saying that we can be on the property and perform the burn, and it's at a zero cost, just so legally we're allowed to be there.
Other questions, y'all? Aaron, thank you very much. Appreciate it, sure.
Thank you all for your time.
Next item is a request to submit an Outer Banks Visitors Bureau Special Projects Grant Program application on behalf of Kelly's 2012 St. Patrick's Day Parade.
This item was on your agenda at your last meeting. We asked you to give us a little bit more time to do some research on making sure we were representing the correct projected expense. We've done that. It's before you now. This is a grant that we have served. We have kind of served as the applicant in years past, and it's really no different than those previously.
I guess it would be correct to refer to Mr. Kelly as the founder of the Kelly's St. Patrick's Day Parade. Yes, sir.
And
We're
take a
very
bow.
glad to have you.
It's strictly for entertainment. It's just the entertainment in the parade itself, not
Yeah.
any other.
It's at no cost to the town, in-kind match. We're just asking for your approval to submit the application.
Aye. Great.
Move to approve the submittal of the application.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. I think everybody enjoys a good parade. Next item is a request from Mike Kelly for authorization to remove trees from Nags Head Woods. Not all of them, I hope.
One.
Ms. Teague?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. In your packet, you will see a letter from a group of homeowners, and you will see a drawing here that shows a new driveway that Mr. Kelly and his neighbors would like to cut in through the woods to connect to their houses, and the backside just on the south of the gate to the Nags Head Woods Road. we don't have a problem with the road or anything that's, that they're doing. There's no ordinance that would, that they're coming into a compliance issue with. But the issue is to bring that road in, they're going to have to take out a few trees. And what the ordinance says is when we have some trees of significant caliper, they have to come to you for approval to do that. Mr. Kelly is here, and you can see from his letter that he's working with the group of neighbors. I've actually been out to the site and walked the alignment. He's truthfully chosen alignment that based on the topography is probably the least impactful that he could have chosen. You'll see he's tying into the easement for the power line and trying to follow that as much as he can before cutting down to get to the Nags Head Woods Road. In the planning department, we don't have an issue with any of the trees that he's taking out. So.
Questions for Ms. T? I think this is just, I mean, it's due to we're very protective of Nags Head Woods, and that SCD 80 ordinance reflects that. So when you take out a tree that's larger than 16 inches, I think, is that correct?
Correct.
You have to come and get permission from the board to cut down the tree.
Well, I think the features that this new road create are far outweigh the loss of the tree. I note that the entrance is going to be lessened in grade so that you'll be able to see traffic more clearly, as well as, and this was more important to me, it's going to significantly improve the police fire accessibility in there.
That's correct. That's correct.
Entertain a motion?
I make a motion we approve as submitted.
Second. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Thank you all very much for working to minimize that intrusion in the woods. I know y'all appreciate it as much as we did. Mr. Leidy, anything for us this evening?
I would like to inform the board of one development and one of the matters that we are handling for the town. We filed in the case that the town has brought against Cherry Inc., which is the owner of one of the cottages located on Seagull Drive. At the end of 2010, we received a judgment from the Superior Court authorizing the town to enforce the nuisance ordinance and to remove the structure because it violated the nuisance ordinance. The owners appealed from that decision. That matter is on appeal at the present time. Last week we filed our brief responding to the to Cherry Inc.'s brief in that case. Just wanted to point out that that's where that matter stands at this time. Otherwise, nothing else to report.
Thank you, Mr. Leidy. Mr. Alpert?
I do have a few things in which I'll make brief. Want to update the board on a few of the projects that we've got going on, and I'm going to ask Dave Clark if he'll start with the bids for the sand fencing project that we opened yesterday, and also after that we also submitted for RFQ for engineering services to bring you up to speed on those two topics.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, as the manager mentioned, yesterday we received an open bids for sand fencing for a dual project that we'll be doing this year because we were able to carry over our funds from last year. We didn't put sand fencing up just prior to beach nourishment for a number of reasons, but we felt like it would be prudent to wait until after the beach nourishment project was completed, which among other things would open up a lot more of the oceanfront in town that would meet the CAMA regulations for installing sand fencing, i.e. in South Nags Head. We received 4 bids, and the low bid was actually about $6 less. The way we bid this, because sand fencing is installed in 10-foot sections, we bid it per 10-foot section. So in other words, the price that we were receiving was to install a complete 10-foot section. And the low bid was $25.80. Now, we had estimated the amount of footage that we would be able to put out using a $32 per 10-foot section figure, which was kind of average for the last 3 years that we did sand fencing, but it's probably because we were doing about twice as much that we got a better unit price from the company that we got it from. But based on our calculations, we'll be able to do about 3.6 miles this year. So not only will we be doing all of Reach 3, which is the 9,000 feet, where the original beach nourishment design called for some dune construction that was not done because of the accretion of the beach between November and May, but we'll be able to do the town beach accesses as well as probably all of the private property parcels that have been requested as well. So I'm preparing the contract now. As I said, we opened bids yesterday. The contract will be under review tomorrow, and we should be putting sand fence up starting the 1st of December.
In years past, we've waited till the spring because of concern about the sand fence holding up to the weather, but this year that we want to get it up as soon as we possibly can so that the fence can start collecting some of that sand that's blown from the northeast. If we had it up a couple of weeks ago, we probably already would have had it dune by now with all that sand to catch. So Dave's going to get this out and get it going just as soon as we possibly can. And we've also talked about, we're going to try and take advantage and work with the contractor to maybe publicize a time that he'll be working when we'll know where he'll be on a weekend, where homeowners might be able to come down and just be able to take advantage of seeing how it's put in. I've seen some pretty interesting alignment of sand fence here lately, but the contractor will show folks how to do it.
Great way to do it. And I've been getting a lot of calls as well, not only about the sand fencing, but what people can do after the sand fencing is put in. And I've been getting a lot of calls of people interested in getting American beach grass either on their own or contracting with a local firm to install beach grass after the sand fencing is put in. So there's a lot more interest on this project this year than there's been in the past, and people are enthusiastic about it and looking forward to it.
So if anyone does have a question about the beach grass, because I know I talked to either you or Dave about it, then you want them just to call you, Dave?
That'd be fine. That will be fine. My office has moved, but my phone number's the same.
You got a good source for beach grass?
Yes, there's a firm in Currituck County. As a matter of fact, back early October, I think it was, we had a workshop one evening basically to talk about the National Flood Insurance Policy program, but I had a segment on sand fencing and beach grass as part of that. And in researching where beach grass is available in the area, I found out that there's one primary source and all the other retail sources pretty much get all theirs from them. And I've talked to them today, as a matter of fact. They were one of the bidders on the sand fence project, and they indicated that they're going to have a very good supply of beach grass available. So I've already let them know that they'll probably be hearing from some folks who are interested. And if some of the people I've talked to are not local, they're absentee property owners or they're remote, and so this source of beach grass will also install it as well. So I mean, you can just buy the beach grass from them, put it in yourself, or they're willing to install it for you.
Sand fence and beach grass are the two best things you can do for your dune.
Absolutely.
And that beach grass goes in while it's dormant, which is December, January.
Right.
So that'll be a nice opportunity to have the sand fence in and the beach grass following it up.
Exactly.
That's, thank you. It's even if you can't get on the town program, it's worth doing it on your own.
Certainly. As the manager mentioned, due to some personnel changes with the firm that has been doing the town's engineering services for several years, we decided it was time to test the waters and see what might be available out there. So we put out a request for our letters of interest and qualifications and received 6 submittals last Thursday. We received from 4 local firms, from one in Elizabeth City and one in Virginia Beach. And so Ralph and Elizabeth and I are currently evaluating those proposals. We'll probably be setting up interviews with 2 or 3 of the firms that we feel appear on paper to offer us the best level of service and the most qualified individuals who have the experience in the types of projects that we're going to be asking them to either review or design. And we'll be moving forward with that process as well over the next couple of weeks and see even if we can't get a new firm on board under agreement with the town.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got 3 other projects that have kind of melded into one. Ralph's going to talk about those, and that's the Vista Colony Stormwater, Nags Head Stormwater, and the multi-use path.
Good evening. Like the manager said, all these projects kind of came together at one time, so one impacts the other. We accepted bids yesterday on the Vista Colony project. I will be meeting with the contractor either Friday or Monday to go over some things with him, and hopefully we will bring back a recommendation at the December 1st board meeting, first board meeting in December for Vista Colony project. I know that's been a long time coming, and we're that much closer. Also, we were asked to look at a project to see if we can get the water out of Nags Head Acres faster than it flows now. Now, you know, like I've been telling you for years, the water in there has to build up to about 18 inches before it can flow out underneath the pipe that's underneath the bypass. We have come up with a design concept that will work. That is in design right now. But part of that design of that project will impact the multi-use path. So for that project to work, we need to lower some pipes that are already in the existing ditch on the bypass, which is going to impact the multi-use path. We were hoping to get that multi-use path out to bid by now, but like we said, all these things came together, so instead of going back, having to tear out pavement, concrete, and lower the pipes, we are going to do it. That'll be the first phase of the Nags Head Acres drainage project. So that's where we are right now.
Questions for Ralph?
Ralph, how delayed do you think that the multi-use path will be because of the work that you'll have to do at Nags Head Acres?
It'll be very quickly. It's basically all he needs to do is to take the design from the Nags Head Acres project that is in there and just incorporate it into the plan. So it's not going to substantially slow down that project. That was something that, you know, we talked about, that we didn't want that to happen. We told the engineer that is the first thing that needs to go in. Like I said, the design had already been done. The plans are done for the project. But as this one came along, and when we seen that we had to lower those pipes, then, you know, we said, well, let's just back up a little bit and let's do this work first and get this out of the way. So the multi-use path in that first phase of that project will already be done. And then from that part on, we can work back the other way.
Okay.
So it's not going to substantially hold it up. It'll hold it up a couple of weeks, but that should be about it. Because that's the first thing he's going to do is go out, get the elevations and stuff, design that, and incorporate that into the plans for the multi-use path. Because we've been telling them all along that that path has to be done before Memorial Day. It's got to be done. We got to get it out. It has to be done.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ralph. Unfortunately, when the summer season ends and houses are no longer being occupied, it seems as though the breaking and entering season starts, and we've had a few of those start to occur. And I've asked the Deputy Police Chief, Tom Gillum, to kind of, for your sake and for those that are listening or maybe watching this this weekend, take an opportunity to kind of warn people and protect themselves and where we are in this regard.
Mayor, Board, I would like to remind the citizens and the visitors and the property owners that it is that time of year. During the holidays, we usually see a slight spike or an increase in crime, especially on property crime. We have less of a population base and less visitors from now throughout, I'd say, late winter, so we have less occupied houses. So I would like to just take this minute to remind all visitors and property owners and citizens, please report any suspicious activity. It helps tremendously. There are a number of cases this past year where people have reported something and that led to an arrest or a clearing of cases, especially with property crimes. Also, to make sure that your alarms if you do have alarms on buildings, to make sure they're working properly. I know this past weekend we had a few break-ins, residential break-ins, and apparently one of the alarms went off, and it probably prevented at least that one break-in and probably more. The police, when they responded, found a good amount of property by the back door of a residence, and I guess they got scared off, whoever was doing it, and so it definitely prevented that, and possibly prevented any more from taking place. But the thing is, if you have an alarm system and it's not set up properly, or it's not operating properly, then it's really no good. Also, to secure all your personal property. And currently our Criminal Investigations Division is working on this last series of break-ins. I think there were 4 this past weekend, and they're working with area agencies on those.
Tom, is there, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Sir, is it any higher this year than it's been in the past? I mean,
Pardon?
Is it any higher, or is it?
Actually, I'd have to look at the figures to be exact, but I think it's probably average or a little bit below average for that.
One other suggestion I'll add to that, Tom, is ask if folks can take down their serial numbers from their electronics. Yes. It seems like it's big flat screen TVs. If we recover it and you've got the serial number, you've got a reasonable chance.
That is correct. And that helps tremendously kind of after the fact. But I know in past we've cleared up a number of cases in the years I've been here where we could literally fill rooms this size full of property that unfortunately we can't trace back to the owners because they can give us a general description or a make of a TV or something, a piece of property that was stolen, but without those serial numbers or owner applied numbers. And that's something that our Criminal Investigations Division does, a service that they provide where they'll go to a home and record serial numbers, engrave owner applied numbers to personal property, and that way the property owner can keep it. They can give us a copy of it if they wish, or they can just keep it for their records. And oftentimes that, like I said, after the fact, that will help us clear up those cases and allows us to return some of the property to the property owners. Because oftentimes insurance doesn't cover all of what was stolen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I realize I'm taking advantage of a otherwise light agenda, but I got a few more things. One being taxes. I know some of the board members have had some concern expressed to you about folks that are struggling in this economy and the desire to work out some sort of a payment plan. Our tax collector, Becky Huff, and Roberta Thum, the PIO, are working together on getting some information out however we best can. But what people need to understand is that they can contact Becky, our tax collector, and it's one of the advantages of having a tax collector, and we're the only town to do that. But it gives us the ability to work with our residents and property owners. Becky can work out payment plans. She does that now, and that's just something I want to make known, and we'll continue to try and make that known. The county also has, they do it a little bit differently than we do, but they send out a tax payment plan that folks can request assistance through the county in paying their taxes, and that information is sent when the tax bills are sent. It was sent with the tax bill, but I'm sure that they can call the tax office and get that information as well. But we'll work on getting that information out. But if people do have that as a concern, if they'll contact Town Hall and ask for Becky Huff, they can work that out. We're going to this year try and start something new, maybe a new tradition for Christmas. We have the first annual residential and commercial decorating contest. Our new CAC chairman, Perry White, and some others have agreed to serve on a committee to serve as judges. We have this on the website, and we'll be advertising this as well. We'll have anybody can enter by Friday, December the 16th. Judging will be the following Monday, December the 19th. and we'll have prizes, overall prizes. Hopefully this will develop into, a tradition from here on, but I do just want to put that out there that trying to get in the festive spirit, we will be starting the new Christmas decorating contest. And then lastly, I wanted to thank everyone that participated and came to our Veterans Day ceremony this past Friday. I think we had a great turnout. We had two wonderful speakers, Sergeant Matt Costa and retired chaplain Larry Eisler. Both gave great speeches. I want to thank the Public Safety Department, thank Carolyn and Michelle for their help, Public Works for getting the building and the grounds looking very nice. I was very proud of what we did in the day, so do want to extend that thanks. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner O'Malley?
Not a thing, Mayor.
Commissioner Sadler? Sorry.
One of those coughing spells. Cliff failed to say what a great job Dave Clark did
And Barbara Mentor.
on the music, and Barbara's voice is just awesome.
Thank you.
Anyone who missed that ceremony missed a very moving time. Excuse me. Also, parades. Don't forget, Christmas parade, December 3.
And where is that?
Manio. Yes. Give them a plug. They have a great parade. And when Kelly's sitting out in the audience, and he is the founder of Kelly's Parade, people do love parades. And I'm just so excited that the Outer Banks is doing this Outer Banks Christmas theme from now, actually I think it starts next week, through the Christmas holiday. And Cliff, I appreciate all of the suggestions people have made to you, and I think it's a great idea about the lighting. I'm already seeing some come up.
Good.
So it's just a time where maybe the economy is not where we would like for it to be, but I think the spirit is bigger this year than it's ever been. So we need to remember why we have Christmas. And thank you for the effort. Go ahead, finish.
We're also working on two other nights that we hope to. Back during the 50th celebration, we had a wonderful art reception, and we want to kind of on a couple of Fridays have a couple of open houses at Christmas where the building's decorated and folks can come in and tour the building, and so we're working on that also.
Good.
Caroling. You can go caroling.
Well, Barbara, she can sing. Dave can play the trumpet, but that's probably all we got.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioner Sutton? Certainly. I want to express congratulations to the Outer Banks Relief Foundation and the Dare Education Foundation for a very successful marathon and half marathon and 2 or 3 other runs in there. It sounded like it was a great weekend. Perfect weather for a run, and it's been a real boon for the community over the past 5 years, I guess. Has it been 5 years? 6 years. 6 years. Wow. Well, but thank you, and thank you for all the good stuff that comes along with those community events, and it really does serve to bring our community together in a good way, very positive. I did have a request from a contractor, local contractor, about extending the. We are currently waiving permit fees for storm damage.
Till the 23rd of November.
Till the 23rd of November. I did have a request today to consider extending that waiver provision. Fellow said that those contractors, it's a lot of bulkhead work, a lot of roofing work, and those contractors have been backed up pretty severely, and just wanted to ask what y'all how the board might feel about that. It does have to happen by board action. We've got it for, I think it's 90 days in our ordinance. But if we wanted to extend it further than that, we would have to take action on it.
I think we discussed this a little bit, and I don't have a problem. I know the roofers are backed up, and bulkhead people, it'll be 6 months. As long as staff can determine that it is Irene related, I don't have a problem with extending that until, are you suggesting like just?
I'm going to suggest May 15.
Yeah.
Go ahead and get it.
No, I don't have a problem with that, Bob.
Commissioner O'Malley, comments, questions?
No, as long as it's validated, it's fine.
Well, I'm going to make a motion to that effect that we extend the waiver on storm damage related building permits until May 15th of 2012.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Any further business to come before the board this evening? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We're adjourned.